Hello and welcome to the small lecture on reconstructed Roman glass furnaces. My name is Wiesenberg. I'm the Executive Director of the V.E.R.I Museum in Rhein-Brohl, Germany, but I'm also involved in some glass furnace experiments in Germany and in Belgium as well. This lecture you're about to hear is sort of substitute for a lecture I was going to give in Trieste on the 7th of March, but cancelled due to coronavirus. After a short introduction, which will mainly cover the archaeological evidence of Roman hut glass workshops, I will introduce you to a Roman furnace project at V.E.R.I, which started in 2005, was continued in 2006, followed by the V.E.R.I furnace project, which was started in 2008, still continuing today, and last but not least, the Borg furnace project at the Saarland region of Germany, started in 2013, still continuing today. I will draw a short conclusion and show a couple of details which we have already achieved. These three projects, in my opinion, are major projects because they deliver comparable data in terms of working conditions, the resources, mainly wood for firing, and also the data, temperature, and working waste which is achieved during the project. The problem when it comes to the archaeological evidence for glass furnaces and Roman-style glass working is that we have a lot of excavated furnace structures, but mainly just furnace outline or furnace bases. Just the fire pit, maybe stokehold entrance, which is visible in the archaeological record. The upper structure of the excavated glass furnaces are usually missing, but they must have been pretty close structures because of the high temperatures involved in glass making. The two pictures that I did show over here are taken from an excavation undertaken in 1999 and 2000 at Trier, Hopfengarten, where a pretty small Roman glass furnace was excavated, and it is still on display at the Landesmuseum Trier as a block rescue. Apart from the missing upper structures of the glass furnaces, we're also missing cooling ovens or layers or annealing chambers, so kind of infrastructure which is kept at a lower temperature, about 450 or 500 centigrades, used to anneal the glass vessels. The annealing process is crucial in Roman times, even today, because the annealing process prevents the glass vessels from breaking due to inner stressors, such as is displayed in this picture. Keeping in mind that we're missing the upper structures of the glass furnaces and also the infrastructure for annealing the vessels, it's also a big problem that we are lacking information about the design of the glass furnaces and written sources or paintings from antiquity. The only complete image of a glass furnace or glass workshop we have from Roman times is on a Roman oil lamp dating in the middle of 1st century, which is preserved in 3 examples, all from the Italian or Slovenian coastline, the Austrian coastline. But this oil lamp might be sort of a sketch of a Roman glass workshop. There are a lot of details visible, such as maybe a working hall, maybe a stoke hall, maybe even pre-warming halls, and a lot of heat radiation involved. But it's not necessarily a very, very detailed sketch for reconstructing glass furnaces. Combining the informations provided by the excavation of Roman glass workshops and also on the information depicted on the oil lamp, we can dare to reconstruct Roman furnaces and Roman glass workshops in detail. But the reconstructions are based on the layouts and basically form the principle form follows function. Discussing the reconstructed glass furnace projects, I'd like to take back to the year of 2005 and take you to the small village of V.E.R.I in southern England, close to Andover, where Mark Taylor and David Hill are running their modern studio with gas-powered furnaces. And in 2005, they did reconstruct a big pot furnace containing a lot of ceramic crucibles for melting the glass, and also a tank furnace and layer combination. The pot furnace is depicted on the upper picture and also on the left drawing. The combination of tank furnace and layer is depicted in the bottom picture, and also on the drawing on the right hand side. Here are a couple of shots of building the big pot furnace. The furnace floor is laid out with Roman roof tile fragments, pretty large fragments, and covered in daub. It features an inner shelf where the pots are located upon. The pots in this very early stage of the project were covered in a layer of daub, which is made from just local loam and some vegetable matter. The dome is closed bit by bit to have almost closed top of the furnace, which contains the heat very well. Compared to the pot furnace, the tank furnace was lacking melting crucibles contained in the molten glass, but instead it features a tank built exclusively from daub, which contained the molten glass, and the adjacent annealing chamber was powered by hot exhaust gases from the tank furnace. During operation, the sides, the doors of the annealing chamber were closed by Roman roof tile reproductions. The tank itself wasn't too successful since it developed a couple of cracks during the firing process. So the glass, which was inside this kind of tank, just was finding its way down into the fire pit. But nevertheless, this tank furnace had to be kept in operation at high temperatures just to power the annealing chamber and to anneal the vessels thoroughly. For 2006, Mark Taylor and David Hill decided to do a couple of changes to their workshop layout. They kept the big pot furnace, since it was quite successful in 2005. They just made minor changes, minor repairs to the outside. But they took down the tank furnace with the cracked tank, and instead they erected a small pot furnace and a separate layer to anneal the vessels. On the drawings down below, there are two cross sections of the pot furnace, one displaying the stokehole entrance, one just a cross section with the working hole openings, and also a picture of a cross section of the layer. There's some detailed shots of the repairs which had to be done at the big pot furnace. As you can see, they're just minor repairs. So the outer shelf where the doors are resting upon and tools are resting upon had to be redone, and also the stokehole entrance required a minor repair. The unsuccessful tank furnace was taken down for a 2006 project, and Mike Taylor, David Hill erected a small pot furnace on top of the fire pit of the old tank furnace. On the middle picture on the first row, you can see a couple of Roman roof tile fragments protruding from side walls. They served as a support for the glass pot for the melting crucible held in a central position inside this furnace. As a replacement for the annealing chamber, which was placed aside from the tank furnace in the 2005 project, Mark Taylor and David Hill decided to build a separate layer in 2006, which was powered through two stokehole openings from the sides, and featured two doors to place the vessels inside the vessel room. Since 2007, the glass workshop at Crawley is left open, exposed to the weather conditions as a sort of deterioration project. So the deterioration, the weathering of the glass furnaces is recorded regularly. As you can see, there are a lot of deterioration visible on the two big furnaces. And on the far right-hand side, on far right-hand corner, there are just the remains of the layer, which was held at a lower temperature, operated at a lower temperature. So this construction deteriorated much faster than the others, which were operated at higher temperatures, around 1000 centigrades. This project delivers a lot of interesting data, which can be compared to the remains of Roman glass workshops from excavations. Moving from Crawley in the southern part of England, we are coming to the southeastern part of Flanders in Belgium, to the V.E.R.I furnace project, which was started in 2008 to accompany the opening of the V.E.R.I exhibition in the Provincial Archäologisches Museum at V.E.R.I, which now is the Archaeozentrum Berserker. A big furnace, a big pot furnace, was built quite close to the museum in a wooden workshop, which copied the design of the large pot furnace, which was most successful at the V.E.R.I project. The first workshop layout at Wiesenberg also features an annealing oven and layer with just a single opening to the fire pit and a single opening to the vessel room, the annealing chamber. Since the small layer at Wiesenberg produced a kind of dulling effect of the surface of a couple of glass vessels, it was decided to create a different kind of layer with a sealed vessel chamber to prevent the hot exhaust gases attacking the surface of the freshly blown glass vessels. This large annealing oven was built in 2011 and featured a sealed closed vessel chamber. It works, it's hard to operate, but the vessels are very clear and shiny, so they feature the correct condition of their surface. Seems the old layers seem to cause some kind of dulling of the surface of a couple of glass vessels. It was decided in 2011 to build an additional layer with a sealed vessel chamber to try to cut down on this effect. This effect is noticeable on the on Areobolus depicted on left-hand side, and the sealed vessel chamber, which prevents the hot exhaust gases of the fire from attacking the surface of the glass, works pretty nicely when it comes to deliver a nice surface, but it's pretty hard to operate since the relation between the fire chamber and the vessel chamber is not perfect. Moving from the southwestern part of Flanders in Belgium, we come to the far western part of Germany, the Saarland region, where the archaeological park Roman Villa Borg is located pretty close to the Luxembourg border. It features a reconstructed domestic part of Roman Villa Rustica, which resembles the building phase of the end of 2nd, beginning of 3rd century, featuring a bathhouse, Roman kitchen, and a lot of domestic buildings. When examining the small finds from this Roman settlement site, it's pretty obvious why there is a certain demand for reconstruction of a Roman hot glass workshop. A lot of building material was excavated over there. For instance, the picture number 1, which is a highly fired daub with a pretty thick layer of molten glass on top. This is pretty much one example of building material from a glass furnace. And on the picture on the right hand side, it's glass fragment, raw glass fragment, which probably derives from a glass pot, a melting crucible. At Borg, apart from the furnace fragments, no remains of the glass furnace were excavated, so there's no evidence for the exact location of the glass furnace, nor is there any evidence for the layout of the glass furnace itself. So the blueprint of the glass workshop, which was reconstructed at the Villa Borg, was taken from the Hopfengarten excavation in Trier, which is quite close by, actually 30 kilometers from Borg. And this excavation in Trier features a very small glass furnace, which just in a diameter of 55 centimeters of the fire pit, and another structure pretty close by, which very possibly is or was an annealing oven. The furnace base of the Hopfengarten glass furnace is still on display in the Rheinisches Landesmuseum in Trier as a block rescue. And again, apart from the furnace base, more information or inspiration for reconstruction is taken from the oil lamp. Combining the information, we can dare to do a reconstruction of a glass furnace. The easiest information is provided by the furnace base, by the furnace layout. So if the entrance Roman roof tile fragment or hypocaust tile fragment, which is normally the stoke entrance of the furnace, has a width of around 20 centimeters. You might notice that the side walls of the stokehole entrance and the side walls of the fire pit as well are around 20 centimeters of width. The possible height of the stokehole and the stokehole channel might be around 25 centimeters. Another detail is provided by the height of the glass pot of the melting crucible. The crucibles we're using have a height of around 25-26 centimeters. And also the working height of the outer working height is indicated by the oil lamp, because the glassmaker working in front of the furnace is working on a small stool, so the working height might be around 60 centimeters. If you subtract the height of the glass pots from the working height of 60 centimeters, you end up with the position of the inner shelf, which is used for sturdy support for stabilizing the glass pots, which are pretty heavy and need to be in a very stable position, even when the furnace is on very high temperatures of more than 1000 centigrades. The working opening to gather the glass from the pot might be at least 35 centimeters of height and width. Combining these informations and keeping in mind that the furnace needs to have a good draft, it's quite possible that the upper end of the stokehole might be a little bit lower than the shelf, which is the support for the glass pots. So you end up with this with the base layout of the furnace, which you're about to reconstruct now. So this is it. In combination of all of the details which I mentioned before, this is the cross-section of the glass furnace at V.E.R.I, with the floor laid out with Roman roof tile and hypocaust fragments, which is number 1. Number 2, the entrance of the fire pit. The 6, the stokehole opening. Number 3 is this sturdy support for the melting crucibles, number 10, which I mentioned before. Number 8 is the gathering hole, which is used for gathering the glass from the glass pot number 10, and also for preheating or reheating the glass vessels. Number 9 is for preheating the tools, such as punties and irons, blow-in irons. Number 7, the top chimney hole. This might be closed during the working periods, which we noticed or learned during the projects. You might notice that the floor level on the right-hand side of the glass furnace is a little bit higher than on the left-hand side. So there might be the need to do a small sort of working pit in front of this glass furnace. This is just depending on the working height and on the height of your melting crucible. The Lear design is a result of similar thoughts. We have just the 6 centimeters height of the Roman remains, and it's not very much to really judge upon. But the entrance of the stokehole in front of the furnace was pretty obvious. And at Trier, the furnace was built to one of the side walls of the workshop. Since we're lacking the side walls, the stone side walls in a wooden workshop at V.E.R.I, I decided to use a solid back wall and pretty solid side walls, which can be used as a support for some tile doors to close the vessel chamber of the annealing oven. There are 2 small chimney holes, which could be closed, but are left open during the working phases mainly. So the hot gases travel from the fire pit down below, this sort of separating Roman roof tiles, which serve as the floor or base of a vessel chamber. The hot gases travel sideways behind the closed doors and through 2 additional holes on the back end of the furnace, travel from the fire pit, from the fire room, through the vessel chamber up to the chimney holes. Building this furnace reconstruction employed a lot of Roman roof tile fragments, which were actually from the excavation of the Villa Borg, which is still continuing today. So a lot of Roman roof tile fragments were available. The daub, which is used for the side walls and for everything else as building material, is actually from the site at Borg. So it's a very natural building material, probably used by Romans too. The building took a couple of months during summer 2013. Even during the building of the large furnace, I started reconstructing the Lear, which is located pretty close by. During the building of the glass furnace, I added a couple of holes just above the shelf level, which can be used to insert a couple of thermal probes inside the furnace to measure the temperatures or record the temperatures during the operation. Since I decided not to use any wooden support for building the dome of the glass furnace, which could cause a lot of cracking due to the shrinkage of the daub while drying out, building the dome, including the openings for working holes and preheating holes, was the most complicated part. The building also was pretty hard due to the weather conditions. In 2013, it was a very, very hot summer, and building wasn't too nice inside a transparent plastic tent at the Villa Borg. But nevertheless, the pot furnace and the first Lear were finished by September 2013, and after drying out and with covering off all the cracks which would appear during the drying out process, they were started in the end of September, beginning of October for a test run. During the test firing of the large pot furnace in Borg during September and October 2013, published as Borg Furnace Project 2013, we did a lot of temperature recording using the prepared holes, and we had to cover a lot of cracks from the still quite wet glass furnace dome. But even being not very practiced glassmakers, not being very artistic, we were able not only to melt glass, but also to blow a couple of vessels using the reconstructed glass furnace at Borg. Not only the glass furnace, but also the annealing oven worked very, very well at Borg. So after a while, we got a little bit more practice, and we were able to do a couple of glass pieces which would look nice on display, but they don't necessarily resemble very many Roman shapes. So a good argument to invite some professionals for the forthcoming projects. Prior to the next big furnace project at Borg in 2014, a lot of repair, pretty crucial repair was required on the large furnace due to a little problem during the construction. The whole upper shell, the dome of the glass furnace, was unstable due to cracking, so it's severe cracking. So it was dismantled and rebuilt in 2014. The dome was taken down totally to the shelf level, the exterior shelf level, and a new dome with another additional working hole, small working hole, 2 large working holes, and 2 pre-warming holes was added to the furnace base. This proves that the reconstruction and a serious repair of a Roman glass furnace built from daub can be done. The addition of the third small gathering hole allowed to add a small space for melting experiments to the capacity of the large glass furnace at Borg. So 3 big pots, which are up to 4.8 liters each, 2 shallow pots for decoration, or small pots for test meltings can be inserted simultaneously inside the glass furnace. Since I don't have the time to explain every detail of the furnace projects at Borg, I'll just give a rough overview of the consequences. Due to the weather conditions, the very wet winters, the glass furnace suffered severely from humidity of the soil. So it started deteriorating, especially at the stokehole entrance. Also, there's some minor cracking or crumbling away of some parts of the outer shelf, some cracking at the dome, but not too much. So there had to be no very serious repairs done to the dome since it was rebuilt in 2014. It works over the last couple of experiments, which is projects which are 8 or 9 projects since. It works perfectly. During the projects, we discovered there is a demand for a larger Lear, a larger annealing oven, which offers enough space to do a couple of reconstructions of Roman mosaic glass or Roman window glass, where the small annealing oven at Borg was just too tiny to take all these pieces. The larger Lear was built in 2015 and works ever since. In 2016, I decided I might try something different, something else, because I discovered that I had a demand for a glass furnace which can be operated on a daily basis. So started very early in the morning and probably blowing glass from a small shallow crucible at noon or early afternoon. Did build within 4 days. Did build a small glass furnace on a metal grid. The metal grid is just a solution of having this furnace movable inside the glass hot workshop, because the workshop was too small to have another furnace built there just in situ, which could be left in place during the glass furnace research projects. After I did a test run of this glass furnace in September 2016, I noticed, even though I lacked the inspiration from the oil lamp at that time, but I noticed that the layout I did build just naturally, including an adjacent annealing chamber close to the fire chamber and fire pit. I noticed that this design is much closer to the depiction of on the oil lamp than the large furnaces we did before. Well, here you can see the reason for the metal grid. I had to relocate this furnace a couple of times. So we probably invented the first traveling Roman-style glass furnace whatsoever. Just a joke. In my opinion, there could be some evidence for some fire pits in keyhole or pear-shaped of about 60 centimeters of length, which could be used for glass working. So it could have been done in Roman times, something like this, but definitely not on a metal grid. Since 2016, I use this small glass furnace, for a lot of demo days and research days, and also I use this to teach myself and a couple of others some techniques of glass making. It's a very, very easy, very small workshop layout, and it works perfectly. It's very fuel efficient. It delivers temperatures up to close to 1200 centigrades. The problem is just above 1180, 1200 centigrades, the dope seems to disintegrate. Well, that's the only problem. If you keep the temperatures right between 1030 and 1100 centigrades, it works perfectly for reconstructed Roman glass recipes. Well, after a glass furnace in regular size and in small size, we were headed for something different in 2018. We had the opportunity to get some public funding. So a decision was taken to erect another very, very large shelter, which could house a second glass workshop at the Roman Villa at Borg, containing a tank furnace, the next attempt at a tank furnace, inspired by Hambach excavation, Hambach 500. And this furnace was, well, so the king size of glass furnaces reconstructed in Germany, furnaces reconstructed in Germany so far. At a length of close to 3 meters, it features a tank of a space of 1 square meter. This took about a couple of months to build, and also close to 11 tons of material. In addition to the large tank furnace, which could be used as a reservoir to contain a lot of molten glass, we decided to reconstruct a couple of other glass furnaces, such as a small pot furnace, more or less an adaptation of the very successful movable glass furnace, which could be also transported and located inside this hot workshop, and also two separate layers which copied the very, very successful designs at Borg. No surprise, the small furnace structures we built over there at Borg worked pretty well. But the large tank furnaces at Borg still bared some kind of risks. Again, I decided not to use any kind of wooden housing when building the dome of this big furnace. But in October 2018, we were able to do the test run of this big furnace to really thoroughly dry it out. And amazingly, we got very, very even temperature distribution over the total length of the tank of 1 square meter. And we were able to get quite decent working temperatures of more than 1000 centigrades. But the temperature radiation was very, very high and was not very comfortable to work in front of this big furnace. It was much easier working just to gather the glass from this big furnace and to do all the modifications on the glass, to do the blowing, just step aside in front of one of the small working furnaces, small pot furnaces. Well, we're not only doing big things at Borg, but we're also heading for very, very small things, such as beads. In 2014, I decided to try something different and built a small sort of rocket furnace, small chimney-style furnace, which could be used for bead making, not using charcoal, but just a natural draft of a wood-powered furnace. So since we started in 2014 at Borg, where since then 9 bead furnaces were built and operated, we have also inspired a lot of projects elsewhere, and I myself did build a couple of bead furnaces, even in Romania, in Germany, and so we can fall back on experiences of a lot of different layouts, different ideas which are already tested or in testing. So we're learning a lot of things about small wood-fired furnaces right now. Apart from the 2 bead furnaces, which can be operated at the Villa Borg simultaneously currently, there's also another deterioration project, a taphonomy project at Borg, where the 1 bead furnace, which was built in 2016, is exposed, protected by a wooden box, exposed to the weather conditions, and the weathering is recorded regularly. This project is intended to investigate how the weathering process does affect a daub's even high-fired daub structure. And as you can see, obviously, it's just deteriorating quite fast, so it's due to just humidity being trapped inside the daub and freezing, breaking off, and really more or less crumbling down over the years and over the winters. So currently it looks like there's some kind of unofficial European Roman Glass Research Center at the Archaeological Park Rome Villa Borg. The hot glass workshops, which are located over there, contain the very large tank furnace for glass working or batch melting. This can be used as a tank furnace or as a pot furnace, which containing large pots right now. The old one, the medium pot furnace for glass working, currently 2 small pot furnaces with adjacent annealing chambers for glass working, 4 annealing ovens, and 2 to 3 bead furnaces. All of these structures can be used simultaneously. Starting in 2013, 9 research projects were carried out at the Archaeological Park Villa Borg until June 2019. We unfortunately, due to coronavirus, we had to cancel the project, which was scheduled for June 2020. The different partners involved in the project, in terms of universities, are the Universität zu Köln, Cologne University, the Universität des Saarlands at Saarbrücken, the Trier University, the Philipps Universität Marburg, and also another research institute, the Römisch-Germanisches Zentralmuseum, which is located at Mainz. The focus obviously is on research of ancient vessel glass reproduction techniques. And during the project, a full recording of the fuel which is used for the big glass furnaces and of the temperature data, just as needed, is done. And so we have comparable data from the different projects and the different ideas we did carry out at Borg. In addition to the 9 research and teaching projects at Borg, we had more than 50 glass working, maybe close to 100 glass working and demo days at the small glass furnace at Borg. I'm sorry, I lost count of them. Well, now we can finally come to a series of nice pictures, nice colorful pictures. Of course, we did a lot of free-blown glass. This was started by Mike Taylor, David Hill, with mainly reconstruction of Roman glass vessels, displaying a lot of different working techniques on glass. But as the projects moved on, it became more and more elaborate. So the different glass makers, such as François Arnault from France, Lisi and Thorsten Rötsch, Estonia and Germany, William Goodenrath from the US, Jason Klein from the US, Lilia Pangelova, Bulgaria, and myself, the different glass makers added their own kind of handwriting to the project. So not only a lot of Roman glass was reconstructed, but a lot of other glassy artwork was created at the Roman furnace projects, especially at Borg. But also a lot of research work was done at the Roman glass furnace project. Following requests by Robin Dürr, who was covering early medieval excavation in Austria, we were asked how Roman or early medieval pendants could have been done at a Roman style furnace. So Elke Sichert did a bronze reconstruction of a stamp for this purpose. I myself did a ceramic reconstruction. We did battle ourselves through this kind of topic with the help of Mark Taylor and Thorsten Rötsch. These are some of the results we had at the bead furnace. We didn't necessarily use the large glass furnace for this task. Using the bead furnace was much easier. One of the results we had from this project. The possible manufacturing technique for making mosaic bowls, as discovered by Mike Taylor and David Hill, was also carried out at a couple of Roman-style furnace projects, especially at Borg. For this task, a couple of cut-offs of glass canes, mosaic glass canes, is arranged as close as possible on a ceramic support covered by some separator. The ceramic support is then transferred inside the glass furnace. It's fused together. It can be surrounded by another mosaic or spiral glass cane. This piece is then transferred, so this flat disc is then transferred onto a preheated hemispherical mold with very much vegetal matter inside, and is then slumped over this hemispherical disc inside the glass furnace. For this task, a lot of or some tools can be used, such as trowels or pincers. After frequent reheating and manipulation procedures by the glass maker, this vessel blank is transferred into the annealing oven, still on top of its hemispherical mold. After being annealed, so after a day of annealing or night of annealing, it's taken from the annealing oven. The rest of the mold material can be taken off, scraped off, and the inside of this mosaic bowl can be ground and polished afterwards. So this might explain the manufacturing marks and polishing grinding marks, which can be noticed on the Roman originals. According to Mark Taylor and David Hill, quite similar technique can be used for manufacturing of rib bowls. For the manufacturing of rib bowls, blank disc is created on top of ceramic support with separator. This could be either monochrome glass or mosaic glass, as shown before on the mosaic glass bowl manufacturing. The ribs can be pinched into this flat disc using a pair of pincers. The outer rim can be flattened by using the stonemason's trowels. Also, as before, frequent reheating is required. The flat disc with the pinch ribs can be transferred onto a hemispherical mold again and can be slumped over this mold inside the glass furnace. Also, this might require a couple of manipulation processes by the glass makers with frequent reheating. The glass furnace projects also offer the opportunity to blow a lot of mold-blown glass. For instance, this very small piece made in a 3-part ceramic mold created by David Hill. David Hill also recreated a couple of molds following the pieces of the famous Enyon glassmaker of first century. Pieces can be seen, for instance, in the Corner Museum of Glass. These are some of the pieces we did at the Borg Furnace project. I believe this was 2014 and 2015. Fun fact, they even seem to stack on top of each other, these Enyon two-handle beakers. I wouldn't suggest to do anything like this with the Roman originals. So reproductions do really have a reason. To be serious again, this is David Hill and his masterpiece. The reconstruction of the famous Enyon jug, made in 2 sets of molds. For the foot, it's a 3-piece mold, and for the upper part, for the body, it's a 4-part mold, which is very, very large. It's the largest piece of mold-blown glass as far as I know. And in order to make a nice copy of this piece, 2 teams of glassmaker and assistant who is operating the molds have to work simultaneously. This is one of the most complicated mold-blown pieces of Roman times. As can be seen here, even the Greek inscription of the Tavola Ansata made by Enyon can be seen on the reproduction using the mold prepared by David Hill. Next idea, which was tested during the glass furnace project, was making of window glass, starting with flat window glass, which is often quoted as being cast window glass. Well, Mark Taylor and David Hill have another suggestion. They take a person of hot glass and take it to a solid support with some separator on top of it. They pull it to a disc. The flat disc is then pulled into a rectangular or square shape using pincers and trowels. This transferred to a ceramic support, which again, such as the mosaic glass and rib balls, can be used for reheating the glass blank inside of the glass furnace. This is a process which has to be made a couple of times, has to be repeated a couple of times. After frequent procedures of reheating, pulling, stretching, flattening, and pushing backwards, we end up with square glass plates, which can be seen as a reproduction of Roman window glass, displaying exactly the same manufacturing marks, and also a glossy, shiny upper side, which was in contact with the fire, and matte underside, which might contain some pieces of the separator, which can be seen on the Roman originals. So, following the ideas of Mark Taylor and David Hill, the term cast glass is wrong for this kind of window, flat window glass of the early Roman type. The matte glossy glass could rather be called pulled stretch window glass. So no casting and no mold whatsoever is involved during this manufacturing process. Domed window glass is the second type of window glass which was used just during a short period of time, probably in early mid first century. For the domed window glass, a flat disc is prepared which is transferred on top of a preheated hemispherical mold again. And with the help of some tools, it's lumped over this hemispherical mold, taking the shape to the hemispherical bowl of the Roman window glass. So that's the final result of the domed window glass of early Roman period. Two projects at Borg focused on research by Julia Cesarin, performed by Mark Taylor from England, François Arnaud from France, and Thorsten Rötsch, a German glassmaker. The topic was reconstruction of gold band glass. Results of this project were incorporated in the PhD of Julia Cesarin. Two other of the glass furnace projects at Borg also had blown mosaic glass on the topic list. This is research is done by the glass researcher and specialist Marianne Stern from the Netherlands. And since, as far as I know, this is also one of her topics for the Trieste seminar, I won't cover this topic in this lecture actually. So the reconstructed Roman furnaces work perfectly for gaining more knowledge about firing working conditions, and this might lead to something like this kind of live pictures of a Roman workshop in operation, glass workshop in operation, made by David Hill. Apart from this, the economic data, the fuel on labor which has to be invested in making glass vessels, are pretty important data for researching the working conditions in glass furnaces or in hot glass workshops. Also, research and demonstrate ancient working techniques can be done in reconstructed Roman workshops. Another very important topic, in my opinion, is the possibility to introduce archaeology students and other students into hot glass working. Well, this is something we do regularly at the Glass Furnace Project. So the glass students involved, which has to take care of the stoking, keep the fire going on during nighttime hours. They also get their chance to practice a little bit of glass blowing. They get a good introduction by the glass makers. For instance, François Arnaud on the left-hand side and Mark Taylor on the right-hand side. While the highly fired daub structures of the left open glass furnaces can help to interpret excavated glass furnace layouts. So we sometimes are preparing samples from the furnace domes, from the furnace material, to compare these to finds from excavations. Also, the small finds are very important. They also can be compared to finds from Roman or other glass workshops. And we are still working on research on the glass chemistry. So employing the furnaces, we're able to do a lot of different test melts and to see how the glass behaves inside the furnace atmosphere, which differs significantly from electrical or gas-powered furnace when you're using a wood-fired furnace. Another detail we have noticed before, which I've mentioned already, is the dulling of the surface of some glass vessels, especially in England at Borley and also at the small annealing oven at Welsica. This is an effect which seems to build up inside the annealing oven due to some conditions which we haven't fully understood yet. So more research has to be done on this effect. We did start to employ a glass dome, as can be seen on the left picture, which did protect the very shiny jug on the right part of the left picture. So the jug was placed inside the glass dome, inside the annealing oven at Welsica, and obviously the dome was affected by the dulling, and the glass jug, which was covered by the dome, not. So this is very interesting to notice. And also we had a couple of vessels, such as this sort of Georgian drinking glass, which feature a shiny area of the glass and a dull surface on some parts of the glass. So I did use XRF to examine the composition of the glass, and I noticed that the glass chemistry seems to differ significantly in these two areas of the same glass. So we haven't fully understood all of the effects of Roman glass furnaces yet. We have a lot of glass furnaces already reconstructed, but there's still some furnace layouts of Roman excavations which leave a lot of questions. So we just have started with this project. It will be a long journey, and well, to be serious, I doubt that we will, during our lifetime, fully understand the topic of Roman glass. But nevertheless, it's a very hot topic in my opinion, and it's worth reconstructing and take a lot of efforts to try to understand as much as possible. After all, I'd like to thank all glassmakers, glass researchers, archaeologists, stokers, students, museums, university partners, and other supporters of the furnace projects. It's all a big effort which we can take in different countries all together. It's a big opportunity to meet and mingle and to take research to a much higher level. I would like to invite you to the forthcoming projects. We're not sure if we can really realize these projects due to the development of the coronavirus in Europe. But the V.E.R.I Furnace project might be on our schedule for June 2021. There might be also the opportunity to have a second attempt for the International Glass Symposium Glass Rendezvous at Rheinbach in Germany, which is possibly in autumn 2021. The Wiesenberg Furnace Project 2021 could take place in September, and maybe we're heading for a new Roman-style glass furnace project at my new workplace, the Römerwelt Museum, which is located between Koblenz and Bonn in Germany. If you'd like to get more details on the glass furnace projects, there are some published online on the glassofenexperiment.de website. I have to apologize, it's in German, this information. But I've compiled some more information on the archeoglass.com website. I also put some downloadable papers and lectures over there, and also some quotes of papers and books we already published on the subject. Furthermore, I can be contacted by email using the email address frank@frankwiesenberg.de. Many thanks. Hope to see you soon.